How's it going, everybody? Greg here, Gregarious Media. Welcome to another installment of Discog Devil, where this week we're going over Bullet for My Valentine. I just went over their worst to best albums. Check that out in the description below. Bullet for My Valentine are coming out with a 6th album soon. Whether it's going to be this year or the following year is left to be determined. But we know that the recording is done. Until then, the last release that we have from them is Venom, back in 2015. Venom definitely did have a lot of promise going into it, with the singles being some of their most anthemic and some of their heaviest material in a while. While I would definitely put Venom steps higher than Temper Temper, I wouldn't quite say it's up there with Fever just yet. While there are certainly some fantastic moments on this album and a lot of good songs, there are a lot of things that are holding this album back, I think. And to start off, I think the lyrics are kind of rehashed. It's kind of Matt going back to his more angstier, darker writings in The Poison. But unfortunately, it kind of comes off more as an older man trying to do an impersonation of his younger self with very mixed results. There are a lot of riffs on here that tend to sound recycled or kind of tend to sound the usual Bullet formula, which isn't a bad thing. I think a lot of the instrumentals on this album are great, but there are a lot of familiar treadings going out throughout this album. While I do enjoy the production on Venom more than I did Temper Temper, there's actually bass in this album, where Temper Temper lacked severe amounts of it. There is a little bit of a polish to this that kind of rubs me the wrong way. I don't think it's as raw as I think it could have been. I understand that Fever was more polished than the previous albums before it, but it still had some degree of heaviness to it. And while Venom certainly has that on a lot of songs, I think the polish sort of dampens the bite that some of these riffs and rhythms could have had to make it even bigger on some of these songs. With that being said, though, this album is definitely still a good Bullet album. So from worst to best tracks, this is my review of Bullet for My Valentine's Venom. To kick off this list, from worst to best tracks, we gotta go with the worst one, and it is easily The Harder the Heart, the Harder It Breaks. This song is easily the most phoned-in performance on the entire album. This sounds like something that could have been on Temper Temper and would have been maybe a decent moment. It's not like the instrumental is terrible on this track, but it does kind of tread familiar territory and leans more toward hard rock than metal. The rhythm section, I like the build-up the instrumental had at the beginning, but then as soon as the rest of the instruments kick in after Matt's scream, it kind of goes into pretty standard, slightly genty chugs and syncopated rhythms that you've heard in countless metal songs before. And the thing is, lyrically, the song isn't terrible up until you hit the chorus, and it is just awful. No turning back, no more regrets. Yeah. Honestly, these vocals on here, they're trying to sound a little too anthemic for what the song is actually saying. The harder the heart, the harder it breaks? Yeah, I guess that works. No, it doesn't, Matt. Don't ever write something like this again. The second worst track on this list has to go to Pariah, which is the closing number on the standard edition of this album. And while I enjoy the build-up that the song had, similar to The Harder the Heart, where the intro, I think, had this really nice build going for it, as soon as the verse hits, it kind of bores me. It sounds like something that would have been maybe okay on Fever, or it would have probably been a highlight off Temper Temper if Pariah was on there. But as the closer to this album, it sounds like it's rehashed a lot of what Bullet is known for, and unfortunately, at this point in the album, it kind of wore its welcome out. Now, this is one of the more thrashier cuts on this album, and I do enjoy the energy that it has, and I think the lyrics on it are pretty decent. but a lot of it just sounds like something I've heard Bullet already do. And the way that it ends is so abrupt, it's irritating. As soon as the chorus is done, it's just and then it's done. That's a really piss poor way to end the standard version of the album, and a piss poor way to end a relatively okay song, which now actually hinders it greatly because of such an abrupt ending. The next song on this list is Worthless. Now, while Worthless is not what I would consider a worthless song, it's, to me, one of the weaker moments on here. Not because of sort of what it was going for, but sort of that it didn't go far enough. I like the initial scream that it had. I like the progression of intensity throughout the song, especially from verse 1 to verse 2, and the performances by the instrumental performance and Matt's vocal performance, I think, are really good on this song. Especially when Matt does the layered screaming in the verses of, "Look at me!" And it's just this nice, it's really nice and dark in the first verse, and then it's just layered in the second one that has this really nice hit. Unfortunately, the lyrics sound like Matt kind of went through his teenage notebook and then just started singing whatever he read from it, and it's not really good. Again, I get what the song is going for lyrically, but it's just not executed, I think, to what Matt could do lyrically. And I think what also hinders this song is, after such a nice progression of intensity, once you hit the breakdown, or sort of rest, where it's like these nice, airy kind of choir vocals, and most of the instruments kind of fade out, it doesn't really seem like a great progression. I get why it's there, but I feel like it could have led into something else, but instead, it's just there, and then leads back into the chorus in a way that, to me, doesn't sound like it meshed as well as it should have. Worthless isn't a worthless song. The song, I think, had a lot of potential going into it, and it just fell really flat. The next song on this list is the title track, Venom. This is another one that I think had some really good potential going into it, and I like the concept of the bad relationship in the sense that it's the venom that keeps bringing this person back. I think instrumentally, this song's okay. It had a really nice beginning going into it, one of the more atmospheric moments guitar-wise. Unfortunately, the hook doesn't quite go as big as I think it could have. And unfortunately, the way that the lyrics are executed, again, kind of sound like Matt trying to do that angsty sort of approach that I think would kind of work well in sort of the younger band, but 5 albums in, and you're trying to sound like you were on your first album lyrically, and it doesn't quite come off nearly as fresh. Giving up, I'm never looking back. Here we go again. This is one of those things where I know what they're trying to go for, I respect it, and I like parts of it. Unfortunately, it doesn't do enough, and it ends up kind of just being a hindrance. It does kind of leave you going, was that it? Next song on this list is Skin. This one is another kind of rehash instrumentally. It has kind of a more thrashy, mixed of hard rock sort of formula that Bullet are obviously known for at this point. But I think the instrumental is done really well. Lyrically, it's not one of the more special moments on here, but there's nothing that really stands out as cringy like the previous songs. The breakdown on this song is really nice when it just decides to go even heavier than what the verses were going for. And I think Matt's vocal performance on here was really good, but again, a lot of it sounds like stuff that we've already heard Bullet do and kind of do better. On to the second half of this list, I'm going to be starting with V and No Way Out. I'm counting both of them because V is essentially just an intro into No Way Out, and there's no use in, reviewing just an intro. This was the first actual taste of Venom that we got. It was the first single that Bullet released in promotion of this album. And when they were promoting it as some of the heaviest stuff that they've ever recorded, they weren't kidding. No Way Out has this really blistering start with Matt just screaming "No Way Out," and the drums are pummeling, the guitars are just riffing their fucking asses. Guitars are riffing their asses. I don't know how scientifically that works. You get my point. One thing I did notice, though, and which got me a little bit nervous, was the lyrical content sounds like a rehash, but not a good rehash. It's Matt basically sort of exploring the darkness in himself, and basically trying to, why are these thoughts in my head? Reach in and pull them out. Ooh, edgy. So clearly this is stuff that he's tackled before, and he's written better, but it's not like the lyrics are terrible. It's just noticeably a little bit weak. However, the instrumental pretty much makes up for that entirely. The only complaint instrumentally I'd have about this song is not really much of a complaint, but more of I just kind of wish that the solo section was a bit longer. The solo that we got was nice, but it was really short. And I think that it could have been developed just a little bit longer. The next song on this list is the second single, You Want a Battle? Here's a War. This was the song that actually sold me on checking out this album, because I did like No Way Out a lot, but again, the lyrical content kind of threw me off a little when, well, if instrumentally it's going to be like this, I think I'll be fine. This song proved to me that they still had some level of creativity in them that wasn't just sort of going over their formula. This was really the first anthem, or at least the first song as a single, I think, that was really trying to sound like an anthem. Like, it's very obvious this is trying to be an anthem with the chorus chants at the beginning just progressively getting louder until Matt just screams, and then the instruments just hit you. And it's just really nice, really heavy, really anthemic, and the way that the verses and chorus sort of meld into each other just really, really works. The breakdown section of this song, I think, is what Worthless should have at least tried to do, where it had these sort of quieter moments where it was more just these vocals in the background, the guitar and bass were pulled back a bit, the drums were pretty much filling up the space, and then the second half of it kicks in and it just gets louder and more aggressive. But then when coming back into the chorus, it's just the chanting with some open chords. And then the third and final chorus just sounds huge, especially with the guitar tapping, just the layering is just done so well. And the way that it closes out is... I'm probably just repeating myself at this point, but this song was pretty much the reason I wanted to check out this album. For the bronze medal, number 3, we have Broken. Some people did say that this is where it started falling off for them on the album, because it did sound like a bit of a rehash and sort of familiar territory that Bullet has already covered. And lyrically, I'll agree, it's not one of the stronger moments. However, I love the instrumental on this thing. It is, I think, one of the stronger moments on this album. It just barely squeezes by You Want a Battle, Here's a War for me. Primarily because just how thrashy this thing is, and just how heavy this sounds. And the energy of the performance, I think, sort of outweighs the kind of subpar lyrical content. And really, even though the lyrics are subpar on here, they're not the worst, even though the pre-chorus ones of "Don't try to pacify, this may be hard to hear" are mildly cringeworthy if I really focus on it. But this isn't a song that I personally focus on the lyrics for. This is at my number 3 by just a small margin, but it's just because it bangs so hard. At number 2, which I think is one of the most underrated songs in their entire catalog, Hell or High Water. This song is a little bit more spacious instrumentally and sort of focuses more on their hard rock influences and even a little bit of the classic heavy metal influences, as opposed to the more metalcore and very thrash metal oriented bands that were pretty much influencing the majority of this album. And I found the way that they approached it a bit more refreshing. I felt like this was what Venom was trying to go for in terms of spaciousness, or even Heart of the Heart. But lyrically, I think this song works a lot better. And the way that the verses and chorus go together, I think is really nice. But the breakdown on here is straight off the Poison. And I love it. The way that it builds from the second chorus into this breakdown, and which then it just goes into this metalcore just rampage, and then goes right back into the chorus almost seamlessly, in which kind of threw me for a loop. The hook on this thing is really nice. Even though it's one of the more simpler choruses, in which most of the simpler choruses on this album tend to not be my favorite, this one does, though. This song, I think, is one of the more underrated Bullet songs, and I wish that they played it a little more live. Granted, I haven't been to a live show since during their Temper era, so next time I see them, hopefully they'll play this one live. And at number 1, for the gold, the third single, Army of Noise. I love this fucking song. This is easily the most thrash-oriented song that they've released since Scream Aim Fire. I'm just a sucker for thrash metal. The way that they approached it on here sounds like something that they could have done, but just haven't. And so they decided to just go just balls to the wall heavy, with the guitars just going as fast as they can possibly go. The drums are just roaring in the background. And just the energy of this song is phenomenal. And not to mention, the breakdown section here, I think, is the best that they've written in a hell of a long time. Where it has this really nice chugging section that sounds like something that would be in, any Bullet song. It's really nice chugging. It's definitely one of the better sort of moments that they've done, like breakdown-wise. But then it kicks it into the actual solo section. And it is, holy shit. I was not expecting the solo to hit so hard. This is also another song that does the anthem angle in the terms of like chorus, but it doesn't have any like the big chanting vocals in the background. It's actually pretty simple vocally, but it just works. Everything about this song, and I feel like I'm not going to be able to do it justice describing this, but if I haven't, I'm sorry, but this is easily my favorite song on this album, just because it's so goddamn thrashy. It's so goddamn good. While I do think this album does have its more underwhelming moments and parts that I feel like should have been more developed, this album overall does still showcase that Bullet has some refreshing takes on their formula. And I hope that they continue to explore this in their follow-up album, which should be releasing either later this year or, I'm assuming, probably early in 2019. So I would rate this album a 3 out of 5, or if I had to rate the Fantano scale, probably a light to decent 6. So what do you guys think of Venom? Let me know in the comment section below. My social media links are in the description box down below. Links to my other Discog Devil videos will also be in the description down below, or somewhere on this screen if I can figure out how to make it work. I'm Greg at Gregarious Media. Thank you for watching another installment of Discog Devils. See you next week.